Hello Crafty Budgeters, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Brittany. On this channel, we are working to craft a budget and a lifestyle to become debt-free. Today I'm going to be walking you through how we will be setting up our cash envelopes and sinking funds. I have seen firsthand the positive impact that sinking funds and cash envelopes has had on others' budgets to reduce overspending and to save for upcoming goals and events, and I decided that this was the year that we would give it a try. If this is something that you are thinking about or you would be interested in trying too, definitely keep watching. Okay, so now that I wrote down all of the steps that we took to set up our cash envelopes, I wanted to walk you through them in detail. The first step that you'll see is that we wrote down our fixed and variable expenses. Now, your fixed expenses are the expenses that are the same every month. So your mortgage or your rent, that amount is the same every month, or your, let's say, phone bill is typically the same every month. And then the variable expenses are the expenses that change or fluctuate from month to month. So they're separate from your bills, and that's when you usually have a little bit of wiggle room that you can make some changes. You can add or subtract a little bit from your budget to make those categories work each month. Now, the variable expenses are the ones that I want to really focus on because those are the areas that we overspend in our families. The next thing is to track your variable expenses. So this part will be really important because it'll help you determine what areas of your budget you are overspending on. For about 1 to 3 months, I tracked our expenses by looking at our bank statements to really see what are those areas that we typically go over our budgeted amount each week or each month. Another way that you can track your expenses if you can't find your bank statements or see it online is that you can just keep track over a month or two. So you can write what the area is that you really want to track down on a piece of paper. Let's say you want to track your personal spending. So you write that down on a piece of paper. You have a certain amount that you typically use. Every transaction that you make, you mark that on the piece of paper, and you are able to identify how much money each month you are spending on that personal money or the categories that you set. So after we tracked our expenses for 1 to 3 months, we identified those areas of our budget that we typically overspend. For us, those areas range from groceries, eating out, personal spending, gas, and miscellaneous. To give you some examples of why we decided to pick those areas, when I looked at our grocery budget, specifically over the summer, there were months that we were spending close to $1,000 on groceries just for a family of 3, 2 adults and our toddler son. Over the past couple of months when I've tracked our spending for groceries, it ranged from about $600 to $700 for our expenses for that category. And while that's a lot better than the $1,000 that we were spending over the summer, it's still an area that I know we need to work on, and it's an area that we've typically struggled with over the past couple of years. Another example I want to give you is personal spending. And I have to be honest with you, this past month, I have spent way too much money on Amazon. Amazon has received my money for crafting ideas or things that I want to do for the channel, but that has meant that I've gone over my personal spending money that we budgeted for, and I've had to dip into our family budget for other things, and that defeats the purpose of having these categories. So that's kind of how we identified those cash envelopes. And then the important thing is to set goals, and those goals that you set, they want to be aligned with your budget. Setting a budget is important to meet your financial goals, but if you're going to overspend in the areas that will make you go over your budget, it's not helpful at all. So to give you some examples of our goals that we have set for some of our cash envelopes would be for, let's say, groceries. For groceries, we want to spend around $150 a week on groceries. Another area that we have set for our cash envelopes is eating out. We really only want to be spending about $50 a week getting grab and go food or ordering out because we have gone over budget in other months. The next step that we took to create our cash envelope system was that we determined our method and frequency. There are two different versions of how people can do the cash envelope system. The first is the paper cash envelopes, and the second is the digital envelopes. The paper cash envelopes is where people get actual envelopes. They go to their bank, they get money, and they stuff the envelopes. The digital envelopes is where you track your spending and have categories within your online banking. And people use maybe different debit cards related to the categories, or they just are very intentional about the money that they are spending in those specific areas using their online banking. For our family, we have tried digital envelopes and it hasn't really worked that well. So I decided that we were going to try the cash envelope standard system. And like I said, there are many options that people use where they just use the plain envelopes that you can get at the Dollar Tree or any other store. Some people create their own envelopes with different cardstock or scrapbook paper. And other people have created envelopes that look something like this. So this is the type of style that I have really liked, and shout out to Nash's Wallet. She is known in the cash envelope realm to be making some really amazing cash envelopes. So I kind of took some inspiration from her, but I created these simple cash envelopes where I will be putting the money that we have set for those goals into our categories. So you'll see that there's a miscellaneous category, a gas category, personal, eating out, and grocery. And I say to figure out the frequency of your cash envelope system. People have the opportunity to take out their cash envelope money on a monthly, weekly, or twice a month. Basically, when you get paid or based on when it is more feasible for you, that's when people stuff their cash envelopes. For our family, we are going to be trying to do the cash envelopes on a weekly basis. So every week I'll be taking our goal amount that we want for each category and separating it into these envelopes. So definitely subscribe to this channel so you can see how we stuff our cash envelopes on a weekly basis. I'm really excited because I have enjoyed watching other YouTubers cash stuffing videos. Like I said in one of my other videos, is that I get in a trance. So I'm really excited to be a part of this cash stuffing community. So the last step in creating our cash envelope system is that we set some rules. The first rule is that when the money is gone, when the envelope is empty, we can't go into other categories or we can't dip into other cash envelopes to make up the difference. This will really help us to try to cut back on overspending. Now, there might be some times where there's literally no choice, and if you don't want to be stranded on the side of the road because you need some gas, like you have to get some money, but we really want to be intentional of trying to stick to that goal. And the second goal is that we want to give it a try for at least 3 months. Typically, we set some goals, we try it for a couple of weeks, and when we get sick of it or it doesn't work, we kind of stop. But I want to see how doing cash envelopes can really help us cut back on spending and allow us to use the money that we would overspend and put it to other areas like paying off debt or to our saving goals. So we're gonna try it for 3 months. I'll do a review on this channel to see how it's going for our family, and after that, we will reevaluate if we need to maybe move back over to digital envelopes, if we need to change up our categories, change up our goal amounts that we have set for those areas. Just to give a recap for the cash envelope setup, the first thing that we did was that we wrote down our fixed and variable expenses. We tracked our variable expenses for about 1 to 3 months using our bank statements. We then identified our cash envelopes and set goals. Then we determined our method and frequently. So we're going to be doing standard cash envelopes. We're going to be stuffing once a week. And then we set some goals. Comment below if you use the cash envelope system and write down what categories you actually use and track over each week or month. So now that we set up our cash envelope system, I also wanted to show you how we created our sinking fund categories and how much we want to put aside each month for those categories. Sinking funds are basically mini savings funds for expenses that you know will be coming up in the future. It's giving you the ability to put a little money aside each week or each month for those expenses that you know will be coming up later down the line. So what I'm going to do is walk you through our categories, our goal amount, the time frame that we want to have that goal amount reached, what our monthly amount would be to reach that goal, and what our weekly amount would be. The first category is Christmas. In this Christmas sinking fund, we will be using the money that we allot to go to family, friends, and neighbor gifts, any Christmas decorations, a Christmas tree. Hopefully we can have Christmas with friends and family next year, and that will go to any food, as well as any angel tree and a Salvation Army donation that we will give. Our goal will be $600 for our Christmas sinking fund. And since we didn't start in January, it's going to be, our 10 frame will be 10 months. So I want to have the $600 saved by the end of November so I can take all of December to purchase our gifts, to purchase the decorations or anything that we need for Christmas. Now you might be thinking $600 isn't a lot of money for Christmas, but my goal is to cut back on how much we spend on Christmas and to be able to use my creative side to make a lot of the gifts for our friends and family, as well as any other decorations that I can create for our home and outside. Our monthly amount will be $60. And our weekly amount will be $15. So what I did, and I'll show you on this calculator, I took our goal of $600 and then I divided it by the 10 months. So that gave us $60. So if I want to just do a monthly stuffing of the sinking fund, I just know I need to do a one-time payment of $60. If I want to do it on a weekly basis, I'm going to divide it by 4, and that will give us the $15. So that's just an example of how I have gone through and calculated out the monthly and weekly amounts for each of these categories. So our next category is car. So for our car sinking fund, I'm hoping to save about $720. And this fund will go to car registration, any car oil changes for both of our cars, inspections, any maintenance, or any minor repairs. My time frame for this is that since many of these things like the registration and then inspection are usually on like a yearly basis, and some of the oil change and a maintenance are on like a quarterly basis, I want to set this goal for 12 months. And having it for 12 months will amount to $60 for the monthly amount, and then $15 that we would need to put in our sinking fund for the car every week. The next category is medical. So for medical, our goal is that we actually don't have a goal for this because this is going to be an ongoing sinking fund. So what that means is that while I don't have a specific time frame or a specific goal for this sinking fund, I still want to be putting money into this fund on a weekly or monthly basis. So every month I want to put at least $40 in this sinking fund, and if I want to do it on the weekly basis, it's just $10. And in the medical fund, this money will go to any prescriptions that we have, any co-pays. Hopefully we never have to do this anytime soon or ever, but any emergency room fees. So having that money already set aside, if there's unexpected medical expenses that we have, I can just dip into this sinking fund. The next sinking fund is beauty. There also isn't a goal amount for beauty, and this is another ongoing time frame, so there's no specific time that I want to have this amount set by, but every month I do want us to at least try to put $100 in this sinking fund, which would result to $25 a week. And this sinking fund will cover haircuts for my son, if I want to get my hair and nails done. While it might not necessarily cover all of that, but it can give me the opportunity to take a little bit from the beauty fund and maybe use my own personal cash envelopes to cover any expenses. The next category is clothes. For clothes, again, there's no specific goal for that. It's another ongoing sinking fund time frame, but every month I want us to put at least $50 in there, and it'll be $25 every other week. So this one won't be every week, but it'll be every other week. So EOW. And this sinking fund will help us to put money aside for seasonal clothes for my husband, my son, and I. We don't really go clothes shopping that often, but during specific seasons, we like to update our clothes, especially for my son. He's growing every month, and so by the time the new season comes around, he needs new clothes. So this money will be put aside specifically for those areas. The next category will be gifts. And again, there's no amount goal. This is another ongoing sinking fund, so there's no specific time frame that I want to have it by, but I do want to put at least $40 a month in this sinking fund, and then that would equate to $10 a week. And the money in the gift sinking funds would go to family birthdays, any anniversaries, holidays like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, Easter. Again, many of the gifts I'm going to be trying to create on a budget, but having those funds put aside, that if I want to get a couple of things or make it a little bit special in different ways, I have that money already ready to go. The next category is home. And again, no goal, and it's going to be ongoing. But each month I want to put $100 in this sinking fund, which would equate to $25 a month. And in this sinking fund, it'll help with any home maintenance or minor repairs that we have, any landscaping needs that we have. That money will go to this sinking fund. To give you an example of why this sinking fund is important and why we need it, last month our plumbing went on one of our toilets and we needed to get a whole new system, which cost us about $400. And thankfully I had the money in an emergency fund, but if I had this home category already set aside, I could have just pulled that money from that area and then have emergency fund really set for those specific emergencies. So the home fund will be for those like small home emergencies that we have, but also for like landscaping needs, oil for our lawnmower, any new blades that we need. It'll all come from this home sinking fund. The next category will be utilities. And for utilities, this one does have a goal. I would like to save $1,500 for this goal, and I would like to do it in 12 months. So I want it to be a yearly sinking fund because we do have utility expenses like our water, sewer, our trash. We also have heat that is oil heat that throughout some of the winter months our bill is crazy expensive, and so I've calculated how much our typical expenses are for the year and figured out that it comes to about $1,500 for all of those utility expenses and utility bills. That equates to $125 a month, and then it equates to $31.25, but I don't really like the 25 cents, so I'm just gonna round it up to $32 a week. So we might have a little bit more than the 1,500 goal just because I added in a couple of cents. The next sinking fund is yearly subscriptions. So this sinking fund does have a goal of $750, and it's another yearly goal. So I want to have that goal for 12 months, and then that will equate to about $62.50 a month, and then $15 a week. And let me just do that so we can see if I So 750 divided by 12, yep, is the $62.50 divided by 4 gives you $15.06. So I just rounded it down to 15. I just wanted to make sure I did that right. This yearly subscription sinking fund will cover our Amazon expenses for our Prime. I have the Crafty Budgeter blog, so our hosting for that, any membership or dues that we have for different things that we are a part of, it will all come from this yearly subscription. So again, just like I did for the utilities, I wrote down what our typical expenses are for those specific areas and then created a goal that would help us reach that goal every month or every week. The next one is travel, and we don't have a goal for travel. We aren't going anywhere right now, but I still think it's important to actually put a little bit of money aside when we can travel. So this is going to be an ongoing one because again, we don't have anything in the future right now coming up that we need to save for, but I would like to put $40 a month aside, which would equate to $10 a week. And travel, this eventually will be any lodging, food, anything that goes into going on vacation, which we desperately need. So hopefully we can do it sometime soon, but probably not. That will go into this fund. All right, the next sinking fund is family fun. Again, there's no goal. It's an ongoing sinking fund, so there's no specific time frame. It's just where I just want us to be able to do some fun things with my husband and our son. If we want to take a little day trip maybe, or I don't eat ice cream, but I'm allergic actually. But if we want to take our son out to get ice cream or go for a hike and stop to get some snacks or something, it'll all come from this family fun budget. So I'm going to budget $20 a month, which would equal $5 a week. So the last sinking fund that I'm really excited about is this blessing sinking fund. And over my lifetime, and specifically over this past year, my family has been blessed beyond measure. And I know that we are blessed to still have jobs, and we are blessed to still be able to provide for our family. And I also understand that that's not the case for everyone. And so if we can have a fund that we can put money aside to help someone in need, or to give a donation, or just to be a blessing to someone or to an organization that's doing something really special, that's what we want to do. So there's no specific goal for this sinking fund, and it's going to be ongoing. So if there's a month that we don't use our blessing fund, again, it'll just keep accruing month to month, and then we can take that money out when we need it to be a blessing to someone else. We're going to be putting $40 a month in that sinking fund, which would equal $10 a week. So that's our sinking fund categories. And who knows, once we evaluate this, once we kind of work with it every month, we might change some sinking funds, we might change some categories, we might change the amount. But right now, these are the categories that I think we should start with. Just like I created some rules for our cash envelopes, I also created some rules for our sinking funds. Right now, when I add up all the costs for our sinking funds on a monthly basis, it can be a little expensive. And like I said from the beginning, our focus is still remaining on paying off debt. So what I created as a rule is that if there is a month or a week where it just isn't fitting in our budget and we need to put the money that we set aside for these sinking funds to other areas, that is okay. A big thing, if you followed me so far on my channel, is about giving ourselves grace. And so I'm going to be giving myself grace and our family grace that this is the ideal of what we would like to be doing for our sinking funds. If it doesn't happen the way that we planned, if maybe let's say we can only put $500 to Christmas and that changes our monthly amount, or our travel fund, you know what? that money, we're not traveling anywhere. Like maybe we need to put it on pause and return to it when we can actually travel. But just being able to evaluate what our needs are on a monthly basis or even on a weekly basis will help determine if we're able to meet these amounts that we set for ourselves. Comment below if you have already started sinking funds and what categories you have identified. And if you haven't started sinking funds, what are some categories you think you want to identify as areas you want to start saving for? So I wanted to create this video to give you an idea of how we went about setting up our cash envelopes and our sinking funds as a way to really help us to continue to cut back on our spending, as well as thinking about ways that we can put a little bit of money aside every month, so that way when those big expenses come up, those birthdays or Christmas rolls around, or if we want to be a blessing to others, that we have money set aside that we can use for those areas and we don't have to mess up our budget that we created on a weekly or monthly basis. Definitely don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that way you can keep track and see our progress as we are using cash envelopes and sinking funds and crafting a budget and a lifestyle to become debt free.